So, hello everyone. We are the panel about creativity with AI in music production. Um, I will present briefly everyone in this panel. So, first of all, we have Thais Bazin, who's a researcher at Sony CSL. From Sony, we also have Ikuko Matsusaka-san, working at CSL Tokyo. We have the artist Huel Lamor, and we have a French journalist called Sofian Fanen. So we are improvising a little bit since Ernesto Alessandro, who was supposed to do the moderation, just had a health issue, so he had to leave. So it will be a little bit of improvisation, but we'll do our best. So first of all, it would be great if maybe everybody could present a little bit the reason why you are here at this panel, and I'm very happy to have all of you at this panel. So Ikuko, yes, if you could a little bit present yourself.
Yes. Hello, I'm Ikuko Matsusaka, and I'm responsible for technology promotion in Sony's CSL Tokyo. So I'm based in Tokyo. Uh, I'm mainly working on development and business creation for phone machines, which is our AI technology in our lab, together with Sony Music Japan and also Sony Music Publishing Japan. So today I would like to share about our CSL road activities and also the history and why we are participating in this music creation with AI from Tokyo side point of view.
Thank you very much, Ikuko. And now, Sofian Fanen, you're a French journalist. I've known you for many years now. I think that in France there are not so many journalists specialized into music and technology, and so I thought that you were the right person for this panel. Could you please explain a bit why you're at this panel about music and AI?
Yes, hi. Yes, the field is quite new, and there is not so many journalists working both on artistic side and the whole creative side and industry side also. That's what I'm doing. And so I started to be interested in AI and music 2, 3 years ago, because just I was seeing things were moving in this field. We saw different albums and records coming out, and that's what's interesting for me, is that we are living. I think we are living the moment where when AI is moving into pop music and into music that reach everyone or almost everyone, and leaving IRCAM and other labs like that, because it's been alive for quite many years, of course, but it was still stuck in research labs and so on. And so I wrote a long series of articles for my newspaper, which is called Les Jours in France, and about how AI is reaching the whole pop music field. And I won for that. I won the Reeperbahn Music Journalist Prize 2 years ago, which is great for this field because it says that it's interesting and important.
Thank you very much. And now I'll ask Huel Lamor to maybe present the reason why she is on this panel today.
Yeah, so I'm very happy to be here. I'm a composer, producer, arranger, I'm a conductor as well, and I worked for almost a year with Sony CSL, testing some tools that they had created in a musical way, meaning making music with them. And at the end, we ended up creating an EP together, featuring 5 tools that I had worked on. And yeah, I was able to have a really in-depth experience working in their labs and seeing how everything was done, and really collaborating with the researchers on making the tools work better and better. in a way that they would really serve creativity and musicality for a producer, for instance. So yeah, that's basically a resume of my journey with CSL so far.
Thank you very much. And last but not the least, there is Théis Bazin, who's a researcher at Sony CSL. And maybe you can explain your reason that you are here with us and what you're researching.
Yeah, hi. So I've been working with CSL for the last 3 years, I'd say. And I'm actually doing a PhD with Sony and IRCAM in Paris as well. I really enjoy the work what we're doing at Sony because I think we have kind of a different approach to what other companies and laboratories working on AI for music have. And this, I mean, the presence of Hugues Lamour is proof for that. The way we try and actually manage to collaborate with artists is very fun. And I myself am working and showing some prototypes here at the Maker Faire. We are having some nice results for now, and people seem to be enjoying it. So it's very nice to be here and to join you for this panel.
Thank you very much, Thais. As music and AI is something really secretive for many people, I'm going to show you a video that we prepared about Hugues Lamour's collaboration with us. It's a 3-minute video just to understand and so that we all have the same level of understanding of what it is to work with AI when you are a modern artist.
Je m'appelle Hugues Lamour, j'ai 27 ans, je suis compositrice, arrangeuse, chef d'orchestre. À la base, je suis guitariste. Maintenant, essentiellement, je fais de la prod, hein, donc surtout les instruments MIDI, logiciels, j'ai pas mal de synthétiseurs. J'essaye de faire un son au maximum qui mélange des textures organiques. Donc, quand je dis organique, c'est aussi bien des vrais instruments que diverses percussions, des instruments comme des instruments à cordes, etc. Et des instruments plus digitaux ou synthétiques. On peut faire des trucs avec des textures aujourd'hui qui sont vraiment très sympas. J'ai fait un EP donc en collaboration avec Sony CSL de 4 titres. Je me suis dit que j'avais composé la bande-son d'un jeu vidéo qui n'existe pas, qui ferait partie de la série Eket Shadow. Donc je me suis imaginé un monde fantastique avec des amphibiens qui vivent en harmonie avec la nature. Et sur chaque track de l'EP, j'ai décidé d'utiliser un outil, voire 2, et de vraiment structurer les morceaux autour de ces outils-là, en fait. Les outils CSL, disons que faut imaginer qu'il y a plein d'outils différents qui font plein de choses différentes. Il y a des outils qui aident à la génération de rythmes, de mélodies. Il y en a d'autres qui font du sound design pur et dur, mais ils ont tous en commun d'utiliser l'intelligence artificielle. Et ce que ça veut dire, c'est que c'est des outils qui apprennent en faisant. On leur fait essayer des combinaisons, différents settings. Et au fur et à mesure, l'outil va commencer un peu à comprendre ce qu'on aime et ce qu'on aime moins. Et on va finir par avoir des résultats de plus en plus affinés et de plus en plus proches de ce qu'on voulait faire à la base, ou au contraire très loin de ce qu'on veut faire à la base. Et donc on peut avoir de très bonnes surprises aussi. C'est un peu un honneur de participer au façonnement d'une nouvelle technologie, de nouveaux outils de production, quoi. Je repense tout de suite aux personnes qui ont contribué à élaborer les Moog, les premières boîtes à rythme et tout ça. Il fallait qu'il y ait des musiciens qui testent ça. Et moi, je trouve que c'est hyper cool qu'on ait demandé à d'autres personnes de participer à ce processus, quoi. C'est bien parce qu'ils écoutent vraiment le retour de l'artiste en direct et ils font que l'outil devient de plus en plus workflow friendly, en fait. Le processus d'utilisation des outils m'a vraiment donné des idées de l'univers dans lequel je voulais projeter leur utilisation, une histoire que je voulais raconter au travers de ça. Quand je parle du projet avec CSL, c'est vrai qu'il y a toute une approche pédagogique. J'explique aux gens exactement ce que c'est, ce que ça fait, que c'est pas un robot tout seul qui fait de la musique, loin de là. Je pense que ça va donner des clés pour produire des nouvelles choses et peut-être donner des idées différentes. Je pense que c'est juste des technologies qui vont permettre de faire des choses qui avant n'étaient peut-être pas forcément possibles, surtout dans les 5 ou 10 prochaines années. Après, la question, c'est l'application concrète de la chose. Et je pense que si c'est dans les mains des bonnes personnes, on va avoir des très très bons résultats qui vont arriver. Enfin, c'est déjà le cas avec CSL.
And so I think that this video was a good introductory to this discussion, and I think that it's something I would like to have here Sofian and Huel and also Ikuko about everybody speaks about AI as a technology that could replace artists. There are different labs in the world. And I think that Sofian's input on this would be interesting. He has a good understanding of all the different labs about what is finally AI, what is the use of AI in music modern production. And also it would be interesting to have Uel's feeling about that, about what finally AI is going to change in the studio and how she used it herself. So I don't know who wants to start. Maybe it could be interesting to have Sofian Fanen's input on that, on what did you see, what did you understand, and what is for you the future of music production with AI, knowing the fact that there are different labs having different strategies. And so, yeah, let us know a bit about that.
I'll try. I'll try. I'm just, I'm really speaking from a journalist point of view. I'm really not a technician. I'm not working in a lab. And obviously, I'm really not understanding everything that's happening in a technological way in labs. And I don't really want to, because what I'm writing is how those instruments, those new instruments are changing music production and are creating new music. But basically how it works, of course, it's interesting, and I try to understand the main parts of it and the neural networks and so on. But you don't have to understand how an electric guitar works or a drum machine works to feel what it creates, of course. And that's where I am today, and where journalists also are. As Michael said, it's we journalists are quite lazy on this field in a general way, of course, because every time you have a new lab or a new company putting big words on what they are creating, and a lot we see a lot of features, a lot of articles in the press that basically say, okay, computers are gonna create music alone today, and artists are over, and so on. But it's really not what's happening, and it's really not what people want. In fact, in the labs, and artists, of course, and in record labels and everywhere, and of course, if one day some computer can be creative in a really artistic way, it will be interesting one day. But at this moment, that's really not where we are. And so we have, in my work, I've seen that there is different parts, different labs and different companies that are really working on putting AI tools in musicians' hands. So Sony CSL is obviously the main one, I think, today, because it was interesting that Sony CSL started in a mediatic way, with Flow Machine and Daddy's Car, this song that said, okay, we are gonna create a song the way the Beatles would do. And it was kind of a gimmick. It was kind of it was a problem. It was interesting in a technological way, but the music was not interesting, and it started kind of a fight inside record labels, and I guess inside Sony in a global manner. And from this point, it's interesting to see that CSL moved to create tools and to work with musicians, and it's far more interesting today. On one other side, you have Spotify, which is not so far from this field, even if it was moving quite more some years ago. Today, it's maybe a bit more asleep in this field. But at one moment, Spotify tried to implement AI in some tools, and they're still working on it. Because Spotify bought company called Soundtrap some years ago, and they are trying to put Soundtrap in Spotify for artists. And you also have the Google AI Lab, which is for a big part in Paris also, as Sony Seattle, which is also in Paris. And IRCAM, so Paris is a really big town for music and AI creation. Google also is working with artists. I had the chance to speak with Yacht, the band Yacht, who they created an album and with Google's tool, which was interesting. It was 2-3 years ago, and it's interesting because Yacht started with the idea that they could just reach Google and push a button and they will have an album out of their own music. But it really didn't work that way, and they had like a very painful year working with those tools and trying to understand how it works and how it can be creative for them. And in the end, their journey with Google's tools was interesting because in the end, it was really not what they thought about, and it ended up mostly with creating a bit of new sounds, but also new lyrics. And the lyrics are the most interesting part of their album, I think, creating with AI. So, and what's also one last point is that you also have at this moment some people who are more like hackers in this field, and great and creative hackers like Oli Erndon or Dadabots or people like that, because they are using AI tools, but trying to break them, trying to use them in a very simple way, in a very trying to break things. And so that's what's interesting for me, because every instrument in the history of music, most of the instruments became really creative and interesting for everyone when they were used in the wrong way. It's electric guitar with saturation and drum machines that were really not made for to be used for themselves in the track, and even synthesizers and auto-tunes, of course. And so I'm really waiting for the moment where people are going to break AI tools from everywhere and start a really creative journey. And we are really close on this moment, I think.
Thank you very much, Sofian. It's and thank you very, very much, because we have a very big and good view of what is happening in the world. And I think that this is the moment where I would like Yuel to speak a little bit about her collaboration, knowing the fact that, yes, there is this question about machines replacing artists, the fact that Sony CSL is a research lab, and that we are starting to see modern music production, because this is the idea, is modern music production, not only classical music. And I would like to have the feedback from Yuel about our philosophy, the philosophy of the tools towards artists, and how also it could be interesting to see how for the moment it is still difficult for artists to use our tools as they are prototypes, and that we have researchers like Thais who do these prototypes without knowing exactly how it's going to be easy or not easy to use for the artist. So yes, Yuel, maybe you could explain to us a little bit how it was to work with these new generation tools and what they do.
Yeah, so as Michael said, I worked for almost a year, so I started with tools that were almost impossible to use and that would crash easily. And after a year, I had some tools that were becoming like very workflow friendly, so it was really interesting to see the process. And it wasn't easy at all to make them work in the way they were supposed to, so it was quite a challenge. One thing that I have to say is that most, when you talk about AI, people say that it's machines that are going to replace humans. That's basically like the mythology in people's heads. But the reality is that if there's not a person, the machine's not going to do anything. So they are tools that absolutely need a human to train them, quote unquote, and make them do what you want them to do. So in that sense, for me, they are not so far away from the concept of using a drum machine or a sequencer, for instance, because sequencer will play a sequence by itself if you're the person that has decided what you want to do. And for me, it was a really interesting experience because the whole approach was very different in the way that the tools work in a fashion that we're not used to at all with other kinds of plugins. You really have, as I said before, to train them and to understand how they work and how they learn. And teaching something to a plugin is quite an interesting process. And yeah, what I would say is that it was really a very different way of working, and I was pleasantly surprised because it really made me rethink the way of writing music. In a way where I really had to work hand in hand with the tool, the plugin, and yeah, it was super cool.
Thank you very much. And I think that it could be interesting to also have Ikuko Matsusaka's feeling about Sony CSL. So Ikuko is based in Tokyo. CSL is a historical lab. And maybe Ikuko, you can explain to us what you're doing in Japan. I know that you've been working with artists, that you are releasing music through Sony Music Japan. You have worked with an artist and the tool Flow Machines. That is maybe the first prototype who were everywhere in the media when it was used also for doing Daddy's Car. So please, Ikuko, can you explain a little bit what you do in Tokyo, how you work, and how you collaborate with artists?
Yeah. So before going to like our latest activity, I think it's I want to like start from the how the music research started in the little bit of the history. So the music research in CSL was actually started for more than 20 years, and since it was the opening of CSL Paris lab. So before the music research was led by Francois Pochet, who is very known in this research field, and his, as Sofiane mentioned, his most known research is called Flow Machines, and that is an AI for composing. So in 2016, he posted a song called Daddy's Car, made by Flow Machine, which is an Beatles-ish song on YouTube. So at that time, we trained the Flow Machines with 40 Beatles song, existing song, and then the Flow Machine will give us idea, a combination of melody, chord, and bass based on 40 Beatles song. But the point is that if you like play that idea, it's not going to be a nice song if you play back the idea AI gives to you. So as the creator, him or herself, has to like select which part to use or how to like place that musical piece in the whole song. And of course, you need it to like, you need arrangement, or of course you need to like put lyrics to after the process. So Flow Machines contribution for the whole music production process was 10% or less. But at that time, because of some media communication, we were misunderstood as our AI are trying to like replace artists. But what we wanted to like create wasn't those tools to replace artists. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to develop more practical tools for musicians and artists to be used for producing modern music. So from that time, we transfer the flow machines technology from Paris to Tokyo for further development. And so at that time, from there, we started to work really close with Sony Music and the artists in Sony Music so that we can get feedback from the people who are actually producing music, not only the researcher in our lab. And talking about the flow machines, we've changed two things based on the given feedbacks. So the first thing is we changed flow machine as a plugin of a digital audio workstation. So before it was the output was shown in scores, and it was working separately on a web browser. But as if we wanted the flow machines to be used in the music production, the usual music production process. So we were given a feedback that it should be a plugin of a DAW. And second thing is we stopped using the existing songs. So before I said that in the Daddy's Car time, we've used 40 Beatles song as a training data. But if that was research output, so that's not like illegal. But if we are working on like real music, real modern music, that's going to be like there are like barriers of using existing song as a training data. So we've stopped using those released music as a training data, and we've started to produce the musical data by ourselves inside the research lab.
Thank you very much, Ikoko. And I think that you want to show a video of a collaboration you did with an artist in Tokyo.
Yes, sure. So not only developing the flow machines, we're also doing some artistic collaboration with Sony Music Japan. So today, I think I can show the video of our latest collaboration with a Japanese artist called Chizumabo. So can you play it?
です。音楽作ったり、人と人をつなげたりしてます。そのままメロディーフローマシンで採用したのもあるし、ベースラインは結構フローマシンズの感じで作ったっすね。操作がしやすかったですね。見た目もそうだし、動きも。プリセットでジャンル選んで、2小節目だけちょっと変えたりとか、逆にそこだけ使ったりとか、みたいなのが。あと、やっぱり自分だけでやってて、絶対にこのメロディーが出てこないよと。その、01を作るのにおいて、AI からの提案っていうのは、結構プラスの要素になるんじゃないかなっていうふうに思いますね。曲作りって、なんていうか数学に似てるかなっていうふうに思ってて、自分の計算にせて、足し算引き算して、こう、正解に持っていくっていうところだと思うんですけど、ただ正解って一つに限らないっていうところがいいことかなって思ってて、そういう意味で AI 使うっていうのは、受け身もできるし、特に能動的にも働きかけられるというか、どっちの方でも使い道はなんか無限にあるなっていうふうに思うんですね。
羨ましいと思えるところで、ある意味人間なのかもしれないですからね。嫉妬したり、相手のことを羨ましいと思ったりとかするっていう時点、もしかしたらフローマシンも好きな色とかあるのかもしれないから聞いてみたいですけどね。好きな色はって、ちょっと僕がいい感じのやつ作ったら逆に意地悪してそれ全部壊してきちゃうかもしれないですからね。そうなってくるともう人間も AI もなかなか曖昧なものになってきますね。
今まで自分の中になかったアイデアに一つ入ることによってどんどんこうそこから広がっていくものじゃないですか、音楽って。なんか自分にない要素が一つあってそこからこう成り立たせていくっていうのが、なんか AI が発達したからといってその均一化されるわけではなくて、むしろ個性を出すのにいいツールができたってところで、むしろこう人間的な個性をどんどんもっと増えていくんじゃないかなっていうふうに思いますね。
Thank you very much. And so I think that the interesting part here is that Flow Machine was developed in 1996, that it is now a product after being for long years a prototype. And that's the moment where I think that it would be interesting to have a Théis input and also a discussion with UL, but also Sofian. I've read your papers and I would like you, I don't know when, but that you speak about the thing about back and researchers, because it's in many of your papers, the relationship researchers have with back. And we are trying here at Sony CSL to work into modern music production. And yeah, Thais, it would be interesting to have your input on how you work AI, how long it takes to make to make AI models, and how sometimes it is kind of complicated in music, in modern music production, to make tools that can fit easily and quickly into an artist workflow, because I'm not a technical person, but I just see that you can have the best technologies, the latest technologies. If it's too complicated to use, artists will generally forget about this tool because it's too complicated. They like when they go fast. This is modern music production with modern tools. And so TC, can you explain a little bit why there's like a big difference between research and making new prototypes, listening to artists and trying to make interfaces easier for them? Is that it's not the same time scale for an artist who wants to go fast, and you who make research for years and years, because we have many prototypes. Some of them started in 1996, some of them have started 2 years ago or 3 years ago and are still in the process of being tested and used by artists.
C'est bon? Yes. So, yeah, thanks for the question. I think the interesting part is that there are, it's going to be maybe obvious, but there are a lot of moving pieces when building a tool for musicians using AI. And I will go from my own experience with the tool I'm building at CSL at the moment, which is Notono. And it's a new approach to sound synthesis based in visual transformations. So rather than using synthesizers with loads of parameters, which can be very complicated to program, I created Notono, where you just see a visual representation of the sound and you're going to interact with it like you would paint. And so select zones in this sound and progressively transform it in a local fashion. And so for this tool, it was all an interplay between building the model, which is the machine learning model, which we trained by making it listen to a bunch, like around 200,000 sounds of different types of instruments. So building this model, which analyzes sounds, understands somehow what they are made of, and then is able subsequently to take a sound and recreate some portions of it. So you can maybe erase the second half of the sound in the upper frequencies, and the model will try and fill in the blanks. So there is this aspect of the tool, which is basically building, for a matter, a neural network, training it, and then getting results out of it. But then there is, and traditionally in development approaches, there is a totally other aspect of it, which is building the interface. And the interface for that tool is a web interface that I built. So it's very accessible. Everyone can use it in their browser or whatever. And so I think traditionally people in R&D will be either working on one side or the other, but it's crucial for music prototypes, for interactive tools, to really think of those both aspects at the same time. And I think one of the core reasons why a lot of the results that we can see in the music and AI community are somewhat exciting but frustrating also in regards to how they are usable by musicians, is that if you really want a model to be useful, you have to think it through in terms of interaction. If you just start and build a huge model that generates music, then okay, you're gonna have something that maybe takes, I don't know, 10, 20 minutes, 3 hours to generate a sound. And what can you do with it in terms of music production? I mean, a musician cannot be in the studio and wait for 3 hours to listen to just one sound that they're going to use in the process. And so for Notono, it really was about finding the initial idea of the interaction modality and then developing the model out of that interaction modality, rather than going the other way around, where you create a big model and then you try to contort it to make it usable. And usually those approaches, in my opinion, don't work that well. And so this interplay of model and interface is, I think, the really exciting part about it.
It completely goes in the direction Sofian Fanen said earlier, is that generally, like he said, he was a journalist and that he didn't really want to know what was happening in the machine, as he was not technical. He just wanted to see the philosophy and the concept of these new instruments. And this is exactly what happened with Riel during the collaboration, because you worked on AI models on Notono. The AI model for you is your baby, is how you're going to make this very impressive AI model. But for Riel, what is the most important into her workflow is that it works and that it's easy to work. And can you let us know a little bit, Riel, what you feel about, like, you're having like a very important latest technology into a box, but for you, the box is really important so that you can use this tool?
Yeah, well, I can speak about it, especially with Thais, because I focused a lot on Notono, the tool that he's developing, and we talked a lot about, you know, the interface and what it was able to do and not able to do, what it should be able to do. So yeah, it's really, really important. Also, as Thais said, to have something that's workflow friendly, and where the musician, even if he doesn't know anything about AI and the logic behind it, instantly understands how it works and how fast it goes, and also having models that obviously don't crash and don't cause problems in the system of your DAW. So yeah, the interface is extremely important. And also, if you're thinking in a commercial way, and, you know, if you want to sell the models and, you know, make profit out of it, you have to have something that also looks nice and is pretty. Because right now on the market, the plugins that are being made nowadays are just incredible looking and also make incredible sounds. So you just have to, like, be able to compete against that and also offer a new technology. So it's two aspects that you have to think about. But I was able to see this process of simplifying during the year that I spent at CSL. At first, the models that I was working on were in super rough beta phase, and they looked very computer-like when you open them. You know, it's almost as if there was still some code hiding there and there. And at the end, they were becoming nicer and nicer, and also simpler and simpler. They had some functions that were not very useful that had disappeared. They were focusing more on other functions, and instead of covering the whole window of your computer, now it was just like this little thing that was on the side, so very easy to move around your interface. And yeah, it's the interface and how user friendly it is maybe the most important part of it, because if you tell someone that it's AI and it's a new technology and it's exciting, but if it doesn't work and nobody can do anything with it, then it's not really useful at the end of the day. So I think it's really good that the people at CSL are really focusing on the interface aspect of it.
I honestly think that this is the advantage. Like, I'm not going to be pro Sony today, but I think that we decided to put all our effort into working with Sony artists because they experience in their feedbacks on the tools are as important as the models themselves. But I think that it's not only at Sony CSL that there's this direction, and I think that Sophia, you talked a little bit about it earlier, but it's something that you have seen with all the different laboratories in the world, and the artists you talk to is that yes, interaction is key for all the tools.
Of course, because they are artists and they want to have a new instrument, a new tool, and maybe even someone else in the studio. A lot of musicians I talked to say to me, it's having those tools, really different tools from Sony, from Google, from other tools. A lot of them said it's like having someone else in the studio, but every time, at every moment of the day and night, and someone who never go to lunch or to sleep and so on. So you have it's like having someone to try things with. So you try things, and those tools are for most of them proposing a new approach, new ways, new sounds. But in the end, it's always the artist and the musician that is going to choose. And the idea of choosing is really the human part of it, and it will stay, because computers cannot choose. Because they cannot they don't know what's good at this moment to make this track and this song and this music, and the artist knows it doesn't always know how to explain it, why this sound is good at this moment and it's going to be good in this track and so on, but it's in the mind. And that's what's interesting in this process. It's that it's an exchange. It's computers, instruments, and AI and artists, and everybody is talking to each other and working with each other. And so it's bringing musicians new ways of a lot of time musicians say it's like writing, like for me, I'm writing a lot of articles and books and so on, and sometimes you don't know how you go. You know the point A and you know the point C, but the point B is a bit, you don't really know how to go from A to C. And those tools can propose you ideas and ways, and maybe they're not going to be good. Maybe you're gonna invent your own beat, but it's gonna move in your brain, and it's always good to have something to activate your thoughts, because sometimes you are just stuck somewhere and you don't know how to make the next move.
Thank you very much. I think that at Sony CSL, the researchers are trying to understand how AI can be helpful for artists and musicians. We have some creative companions, some sound synthesizers. We have some mixing experts. It would be interesting. Sophia Faden said that with AI, you have someone else in the studio. You have used many of our tools. What can you say about that, having something or someone in the studio with you?
Well, I don't know, because I wasn't really on the approach of having the machines work, during my whole day. I was really using the plugins for one thing specifically, so my approach was a little bit different from that. I was more like giving every plugin a specific task, and really training it on doing one thing, because I had to do an EP, so a lot of things. So if I didn't do it that way, I would have never completed the record in time. But there's something that Sophia said that was really interesting, and that it reminded me that it was also true in my case, is that sometimes the tools make results that you don't like and make you yourself make something that you like. And that was something that happened quite a few times when I was working, and I thought it was really interesting to, for example, with BaseNet, having it try to generate a baseline and me not liking the results, and so making me think in a different kind of way of what I would do if I was trying to write a baseline, but I would have never figured it out if the machine would have not offered me some choices that I didn't like. So it was when that happened, it also made me realize that beyond being tools for music production, they were also having a kind of like educative way of working with the producer, and it was really interesting. So when Sofiane said it, I remembered that, and I thought it was a really interesting point to flag in the conversation.
And thank you. And Ikoko, we saw the video of Kiesi Mabo using Flow Machine, and he also says that there's something new in the studio. Do you have something to say about this collaboration with Kiesi Mabo, about him working with something else or someone else?
Yeah, he besides the video, he was also saying like that working with Flow Machine was like something like a band member giving you idea, like how about this one and how about this one. So like if now when he works on his DAW, he's lonely in his own. His room, but if using Flow Machine, he said that it's kind of like an new experience, but the like the new band member creating together. And I want to add something. One thing that I think it's also this was a really discussion in Flow Machines that we we before we were using the existing songs. We didn't have to like tell or explain that what kind of melodies that Flow Machines are giving, because like everyone knows Beatles songs, so everyone can understand what kind of melodies you're getting. But since we're not using existing songs, we have to like create a new interface to give the intention from the creator that I want this kind of melody to the AI. So right now we created a new interface called Style Palette. So the Chazumabo also use the Style Palette to like tell what kind of melody he wants. So yeah, but right now Style Palette is defined as musical style and the chord progression, but we are still in discussion. I don't know if it's the best way to interact. So that is something we are like getting feedbacks from creators to look for maybe a new interface for that function.
Thank you, Ikoko. And I think that it's important because we are talking about music, modern production, and creativity. We all feel that we are in the early stage of using AI. We focus mainly on the artists, but all these prototypes that are developed at Sony CSL are also imagined and developed and trained by brilliant researchers. So maybe Thais, you could also explain the difficulty sometimes to collaborate with artists because they want a new interface, they want a new model. It has to go quickly, but on your side, it's not as easy as just changing a button on an interface.
Yep. So I'm gonna get again from our own experience, and actually, we really had this interaction with UL because when she was working at CSL on her EP, she tried and played with Notono. She seemed to enjoy it, but then she came back to me and told me, "Oh, there are some aspects of the sounds that I don't enjoy," and those remarks were completely on point. But then it's this hard ping pong game where actually she tells me that. I realize that yes, indeed, there is an issue with the model. So first, there is a phase of thinking about what we should change in the model, so that maybe eventually it could fix those issues. And then you have maybe an idea, but to try and check if it actually works, you have to launch a training, and that will actually, for my case, will last, I'd say, 2 to 3 weeks, just to check one specific single idea. And then it gets very hard to properly respond to those remarks that you get from the musicians, because as I said, it's pretty much the same thing as before when I was saying you're in the studio, you don't want to be waiting 3 hours to get just a single sound. It's pretty much the same here. You have a tool. If someone tells you, okay, yeah, I see what you're meaning, there is indeed an issue here, but you're gonna have to wait another month or maybe 2 months to get it fixed, it might be a bit demotivating. And so for me, it makes the job both challenging, I mean, emotionally challenging, because and really regarding UL, I really wanted her to be happy about the tool. I'm like, I like the music she makes. I'm excited with the results that we're getting already. But then I go back to my model and it's like, no, actually, no. No, it's not going to work. No, gonna have to wait for 3 weeks. And yeah, what can I say? It made me sad somehow at some point that I could not come back at UL immediately and tell her, yeah, I fixed the issue. But then, and that's something that I guess we could somehow get more easily if we were working with traditional approaches, where you have a clearly defined model in your synthesizer. You have a clear synthesis model, and you can tweak it. And every time you tweak it, you get immediate results as to how it changes the behavior of the synthesizer. Like a Moog, even hardware, you replug it, you change the cabling inside, you change some components, and you get immediate results. There is this delay, but also, so that's one of the hard aspects of the job. But then, as I said before, it's all this interplay between working on the interface, working on the model, and the nice thing about it in the end, still though, is that there is a lot of things that can be done without having to actually get into this hard aspect of waiting for 3 weeks or maybe waiting for 5 months to get a better model. And I think with UL, we kind of managed to make it work out. And for instance, as she said, some tweaks in the interface can already make the process easier. So I managed to get some stuff to her that made her happy and made her more patient about the fixes in the model that she was requesting. And so, yeah, basically my experience is the job is hard. It's pretty demanding. It's stressful because you have something, it's quite there, but not completely. It's gonna take a lot of time to get there. And so that's why it can be hard to make this relationship with musicians work, because we have different temporalities. But all in all, I think at least for US EP, the results were fun and nice to listen to. So, and maybe the second EP or another collaboration in the future will have even better sounds and more exciting aspects. So I don't know. It's very open.
Thank you very much, Thais. So we are out of time. I think we could have talked 1 hour more about this subject, as I think that everybody's passionate about it. So yeah, maybe just a closing question to everyone is AI arriving in the studios when is it arriving in studios, and what do you feel about how AI can not improve the creativity or is gonna make better music or worse music, but just something different? What will AI really bring into the studios?
Well, I think that what it's going to bring is another way of thinking music production, basically. It's not you, as with traditional plugins, you're basically like the only captain sailing the ship. And when you have AI based tools, it's a very different kind of relationship where you're really working with the machine and it's working with you. It's not working for you, you're not working for it. It's like interlocked relationship. So I think it's going to be really good for a lot of styles of music that have this concept of having generative patterns, like ambient music, electronic music. All these styles are going to really benefit from it. I also think that beyond the studio, for me, there's a big potential with live application with AI tools. For example, if we're talking about electronic music, if you're doing a live set, it would be really interesting to have a tool that's capable of generating a bass line that is coming from you, like a bass line that could have been written by you. So I think there's like a really, really big field in live music that's going to be really happy to have AI tools. And yeah, I think it's going to work really nicely with all the other types of technologies that already exist. I mean, for me, I use a lot of digital-based plugins and synthesizers and analog machines, and I had no problem, blending this technology with the rest of my stuff, basically. So I know that it works really well. So I think that the only thing that needs to improve, as we've been talking about, is the concept of the interface and the user friendliness. And after that, I think it's going to be really nice, and people are going to be really interested in it because it's something that's different.
And you, Sofian, you talk to so many artists and people and labs. What do you see as AI in the studio? The possibilities?
It's obviously endless because we are right at the beginning of something in this field. And the interesting moment for me is that when it's going to be out of the studio, in fact, because at the moment it's still, as you well said, it's still not always user friendly and so on. So yeah, there is an improvement to do. But it's going to come quickly, obviously. And, the moment when those tools are going to enter simple programs and stuff, like the influence of Fruity Loops, like for example, FL Studio, which is just a program that had changed a lot of music around the world since 10 years and maybe more. It's quite simple and it cannot do what other programs can do, obviously, but a lot of artists are using it and changing the music and making it evolve and making us rethink the music and so on. So when those AI tools are gonna slowly enter other fields, other programs, and be quite everywhere, like drum machine and autotune is today everywhere and used by everyone. That's when it's gonna be really interesting to look at, because it's gonna enter big mainstream hits, but it's gonna also enter really underground music, and it's really important, and it's gonna make huge change, obviously. But what I'm wondering, and I don't have the answer, is if we are gonna one day say, okay, this is the sound of AI. This is what AI created, like we can say with autotune or drum machines and so on. Or if AI tools are gonna just be like spread everywhere and changing deeply the creation of music, but not having a proper sound that you can say, okay, this is the sound of AI from 2023, for example, and I was there. And I don't know if we're gonna see this moment, or if it's more of a more spread thing.
It's a discussion we have a lot at CSL. Is the sound of AI something that exists? We still don't know. And you, Ikuko, from Tokyo, what is your vision about AI entering studios?
Yeah, I believe that now AI is just this, the starting time. So right now AI is just supporting the existing music production process. But like talking with the artists coming to our studios, I think there will be a time that new kind of music produced using AI. So a totally different kind of genre, maybe. So, for example, talking about claw machines, today the people use like if the claw machine gives you a dance musical idea, then the artists create dance music from that idea. But maybe a certain time, you if we get more data, more training data, and more musical data inside our system, then we can like mix the training data so that you can get a totally new idea from an AI as the genre and the musical style is mixed, which does not exist in our today's music. So I'm really looking forward to see those kind of new music created by our tools with the artists coming to our studios.
Thank you, Ikuko. And you, Thais, what's
Yep.
your feeling being inside an AI and music production lab? What's your feeling about AI entering really the studios in a massive way?
Yeah, so I think I'll jump back on what UL said earlier about how she feels one thing we could hope for AI tools is that they actually just become tools that are part of her tool set and that she can use them in conjunction with her hardware synthesizers, her software tools. And so eventually I think it will all just be a different set of things that you can use. And I think it's also very much in line with the approach that we have at the lab, where rather than working all together on one big model that would do everything, we have all of those separate little bricks that just operate well together. And for instance, it's been very fun the last 2 days at the Maker Faire doing our demos, because I'm working with Gaetan, who's showing the Pia prototype, which is a new plugin that he developed for piano performance generation. And it just gives us the opportunity of having this back and forth between one another. With Gaetan, we'll generate some piano performance with Pia, and then I render them in real time using sounds that I generate with Notono. Then, for instance, I could add bass lines generated by BassNet from CSL, or drum beats generated with DrumNet. Then we also have this other tool, Bass Gun.
Drum gun?
Drum gun. We have so many drum gun that I could use to create the drum sounds. And so it's really just a set of small bricks focusing on different areas of music production that just do one thing and they do it well. And I think it will help AI tools not be just like this nebulous and monolithic thing that will. I don't think that would. I think this way that wouldn't pervade into the studios, but it's just like through the creation of such little bricks, we can get something interesting out of it. And I think a second aspect that, in my opinion, would be very valuable, and that's one thing we're striving for over the course of the next few years, is being able to miniaturize those models. And because right now, some of the models that we have require big computational capacities to run, and also to train. So it takes time to train them. It takes time to work with them. I think it will be very interesting when we reach the point where we have small models that train quickly and work quickly on small resources, so that artists themselves can start training them. And it's something, as I said, that we're struggling with working with UL, for instance, where it takes 3 weeks to train a model and to retrain a model. But when she'll be able to take Notono and feed it some sounds from herself to retrain it, I think we will have something really new and super interesting.
Okay, so it's interesting, and just as a conclusion, is that everybody here says the same thing. And UL is an artist; she's not paid by Sony. Sofian is a journalist; he's here because he's specialist of all the AIs. Ikoko and Thais and myself from Sony CSR is that finally the future of the studio is maybe many different small tools, ultra specialized to do something precise that you need at that moment in the studio, whether it's a bass line, whether it's sound design, some drum sounds, or you want an orchestration. But so it's small technological bricks for a special moment during the music production process. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. It was a little bit improvisation. I hope the moderator who was supposed to do it is well. We'll keep you in touch. Thank you a lot, Sofian. Thank you a lot, UL. Thank you a lot, Ikuko. And thank you a lot, Thais, for that great moment in Rome, in Paris, in Tokyo at the same time. Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.